Almost?
All right, we're on. Mr. Chairman.
Happy New Year. Yeah. John, saying that speed. It's called test traffic.
Thank you. All right,
Get away
Board of
from me,
Health
pusher.
meeting, Tuesday, January 22nd, it's about 6:01. The usual agenda to start, and then new business, we do have variance. Yes, Yes.
Before we start the meeting, could we have like recognition of Jim Malley?
yeah,
Like,
I'm sorry, yeah,
sure. Just for recognition of Jim Malley, he worked with the board for many, many years, passed away just a week and a half ago. I think we should just have a moment of silence in memory of Jim Malley.
Yes, no, good idea, thank you.
Thank you.
Jim had worked here since the mid-90s, I believe.
Yes.
94, 95.
Yeah.
And he was very well respected. I went to calling hours, and wonderful family.
Yes.
And I made sure that they all knew how well he was regarded from this department and other departments, from what I understand, throughout the area, for all the towns that he worked in that capacity for.
In the state.
And the state.
I was at a seminar and the state was asking him questions.
Wow, that's something. That's good.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, very good.
He will be missed, so it was tough for the office. The girls worked with him very closely. And he had just come in for Christmas and brought, the girls some chocolates and stuff. And he brought his wife, who after 17 years working with Jim, I only spoke to her on the phone, but I've never met her in person. For the first time I met her, and she came in with him, so.
He's going to be missed, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right, so we'll just quickly run down the agenda for new business. 28 Trolley Crossing Road variance, also 184 Oxford Road variance. We're going to be discussing some background information on vaping, and along those same lines, we also have a meeting 1 week from tonight with the Board of Selectmen to talk about vaping. They had requested that we come to see them, and we acknowledge that we would show, that whoever can show from the board, because that is an ongoing problem that seems to be getting worse. Ongoing business, Flint Road landfill, also H-Foot Road, Berry Corner Road, and Eleanor Lane. The Burlingame Road water testing, we'll get an update on that. Hopefully we made some progress. Final for ongoing business is discussion about marijuana, and then department head reports with Jim. And also, we're going to be talking a little bit about Title V engineering services to fill Jim Malley's spot. All right, so that's the agenda. New business, do we have somebody here? Are you here for 28 Trolley Crossing?
I'm here for 184 Oxford Road.
Okay, who do we
If I
have?
may, for 20 Trolley Crossing, a variance requested to Title V regulations regarding the use of a SIB analysis for determination of the loading rate versus utilizing actual perk test results. This is an existing lot, and the soil is too saturated to perk on the day of soil testing. It is, in my opinion, the same level of protection has been provided to this lot. Even if this variance is approved, I support approving this variance, and this is from Jamie Terry, who's filling in for Jim.
Okay.
And that's your analysis for that.
I'm not too familiar with these, so is this something that has come before the board on a regular basis?
Not normally, no. She could, but she felt that it is important enough to have the board approve that. She requests that, she doesn't see an issue with it, but she wants to make sure the board is notified. I said, I'll bring it before the board.
So they did a sieve analysis,
Yes.
but they couldn't do the perk because it was too wet,
Yes.
so they did a sieve analysis instead.
And she feels that was adequate and to provide the same protection as anything else. She's comfortable with it, but she said this would require authorization from the board.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
What is this for? Like a septic system?
Yeah, for commercial,
Residential? Commercial.
yes. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I know how a perk test works, but how does this civilize?
I can,
Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
so basically a sieve analysis, they'll take the sand or the dirt, if you will, but they'll take a sand and they analyze it and they see how well the water flows through. So if you have like a clay and the water doesn't flow through it, then that would be a bad one, and an ideal situation would be the water just flows right through it. So a sieve analysis has very specific guidelines to its flow rate, and when it will either pass or it won't pass.
So how deep do they go?
Well, typically they'll go down until you get to your subsoil and see what you have there, and then from there you have to build your system up 4 feet above groundwater at a minimum.
And this would be similar to perk test where they would do a couple of pits. In this case, it would be a couple of samples where the leach field would be done.
Right, so the perk test, they open up the ground, they put some water in with a 5-gallon bucket, and it has to drain within a certain amount of time. Then even after your perk test is there, when you go to install the septic, they still dig down until you get to your perk soil, if you will. Open up the area as engineered, whether it's 20 by 40 or whatnot, and then you still have to fill it in with septic sand. Now, septic sand has to meet sieve analysis. So back in the day, when all your septics came out of the bank, just out of the natural ground, they would make you, bank run every so often, every so many feet to make sure you're consistent. Whereas other companies, they create septic sand, like a company like Hilka's, they have their own, they make septic sand. It comes out of big stones and it gets crushed and crushed and crushed and crushed, and then so they still have the same procedures. Everybody has to pass a sieve analysis every so often. So we just did a project just recently. It's for a sewer treatment plant, and it's a big area. It's like 80 by 100 or whatnot, and we had to do a sieve analysis for the same thing. And the past sieve analysis, DEP approved it, and it was good to go. So a sieve analysis is basically just, it's another way to measure the quality of the sand.
So even though the soil is saturated, sieve analysis still works.
In theory, yes, because when your water flows down, if it's a pretty good rain event, it's not fair. It's not a fair perk test because it's raining. Typically, you put a known amount of water in it, like a 5-gallon bucket in, and then you time it and watch it percolate. But if it's pouring rain out, typically I've always seen them just reschedule the perks. So I'm a little not suspect, but I understand what they're doing here, and if the sieve analysis passed, then there should be no problem.
How big is the business that's proposed?
I'm not sure, it's at 28 Trolley Crossing, it's the old lumber place, correct?
28's probably how that's.
Paulette?
Oh, it's, yeah,
It could be, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is. I can pull the file right now.
I guess the next question is, because I haven't come across this before, is there something that would require some sort of condition, or is it just?
Normally Jim would not ask, but Jamie, being new, she felt that she should bring it to me, and I said, we'll bring it before the board, because I don't approve variances or something that she would feel that needed your approval. She felt in this case that she would bring it before the board, so that's what I did.
So it sounds like this is for a local upgrade.
Yep.
So regardless, it sounds to me like if indeed that's the place.
28 is,
Outlets.
I'm gonna pull the file.
So they at one point,
we've got it, Jim.
Are you here for Trolley Crossing?
Yes, I am.
There we go. When you get situated, Sarah, please come on up and have a seat.
We've got the.
Rain for rent.
they've already had a septic there, so if it's a local upgrade, it's.
Pretty good timing.
Excellent.
John Sanborn, Chairman.
Katie Vaughn.
I'm Catherine Walker.
Nick Agna? We met.
Yep.
How are you?
Good, good. So I'm here on the behalf of Rain for Rent, whose parent company is Westfield Oil Supply Company, Inc. They purchased 28 Trolley Crossing Howlett Lumber. And on that property, there's kind of two main components. They're not necessarily shown on the septic plan, but there was an existing septic system on the flea market building, which is shown on the septic plan here. We have the main building here, and then there's a flea market building, a door, wood shop, which is an expansion of the flea market, and then there's two self-storage units on the back. The existing building is served by a grinder pump that goes all the way out to H. Putnam Road. The remaining site is served by an on-site leach field, which is located just to the north of the storage facilities, which was found to be in failure. There's a septic tank at the outlet of this building. There's another, if you want to call it a septic tank here, and then there's a leach field here as well. That we believe is abandoned. So what we're here for is propose a local repair of the system for a leach field in the back. We tested in multiple locations. We tested in the back here with mostly fill when we get to some parent material. And then we hit ledge. There's another excavation point right about here, where we hit ledge about 3 or 4 feet. Soil lines are shown on the plan. So the only suitable area that we were able to find was here. At the time of testing, this test pit we were about 9 feet down before we got into parent material. And then this test pit here we were down about 5.5 feet just to get to parent material that was permeable. So in the application of safety, due to the depth of the excavation, we pulled the soil sample to be used for in lieu of a perk test for an upgrade. And that's why we're here in front of you folks. We need a soil testing in lieu of a percolation test. In the packet or your application, you should have a copy of the sample results, which came out of this loamy sand, which is the same as what we had classified in the field for the parent material. There is a little bit of confusion, no, I don't call it confusion. We put 2 options in here due to the presence of ledge. There's some exposed ledge in front of the building here. Our option, we proposed gravity to a proposed septic tank, and then the second sheet is a pump station alternative in the event that we can't get gravity from the tank to the leach field. We have to go up and over due to the presence of ledge.
You just gotta pump it right up and over that ledge.
Yeah.
Cheaper than blasting.
Yeah, it would, whatever is the best alternative. Since the middle of this, we've gone out and dug some excavation points here and here along the side of the paving and found about 5.5 feet of ledge. So we think we can hit gravity. So really the big question is, do they need to do any hammering to set that tank? But we do have, we believe we have a gravity alternative here. So.
What's the business do? What's the?
Oh, so the use of the building, predominantly flea market. So there's a table here for flows. We had, we call it retail space, just because this can be
You have a
flexible
kitchen
space.
there also.
Yeah, a break room, kitchen.
So you'll be utilizing all the existing buildings?
No, the Howlett lumber building itself all goes into a grinder pump and off. This is only to
Oh, all
support
right, okay.
these 2 buildings
All right.
here. So this is excluded from this
Okay.
application. So we came up with 950 gallons per day in sizing that system. We proposed the standard infiltrator chamber system, which is the used sample system.
Okay, so I infiltrated, that's the one that looks like a Quonset
That
hut?
looks just like that, yeah.
Yeah.
About 3 feet wide, 2.5 feet wide.
Did you take into account you need a grease trap outside now? You need a tank for the kitchen?
Is that a commercial kitchen?
Yes.
So we have to add a separate grease trap for that.
This was the last plan Jim had. I had to go to his house and meet his wife to get this plan. It was the last one he took, but he didn't get a chance to review it, so.
I didn't know it was a commercial kitchen.
Yeah. It changes things a little.
Yeah.
No, the tank. And if that's in an area where there's ledge, then you gotta put another tank in for the pump.
Yep. We have to wait for resubmittal of this plan for the determination.
It didn't make sense to add it to Putnam.
No, because you're either going up and around the building
Oh, yeah.
and around,
Mhm. Distance.
it was quite a long distance to get there.
Mhm. So the variance before us right now is for the sieve analysis and not accepting the perk. And Jim, you have that sieve analysis?
Jamie reviewed it, she has, the file is right before you, it should be in that folder. Unless Jamie still has the
Did it?
paperwork.
Did the sieve analysis pass?
It says, in my opinion, I support approving the variance requested, so I don't, I believe that maybe Andrea has it on her desk.
Mr. Chairman, my opinion as far as the variance with the sieve analysis, if the sieve analysis passes, I don't see a problem with allowing it over the perk. And I get why they were doing it, that was a fill at a certain point, so now to get down
I can't
to-
locate the sim analysis, but I think Jamie already has the sim analysis.
To me, it makes a lot more sense because it wasn't like a rainy day and they couldn't do a sieve analysis. It's, by the time they get down to that depth where they have to do it, they're already, what'd you say, 5 feet in one spot before you even start digging?
Right.
And then the other side, you said was even more, 9 feet?
This second one was upgraded. We were 10 feet before we got into naturally occurring.
So
We
if
were
you-
at the limits of the excavator.
So if you can imagine being in a hole 10 feet and then trying to put somebody in the hole to do that and time it and all that, I understand why they would want to do that as opposed, if it was a rainy day, I'm saying, well, why didn't they do it on a dry day? But this isn't a scenario where the weather was affecting it, it was actual location. So my 2 cents is, as far as the variance, I'm not saying approve this plan because I
No,
know
no,
there's
yeah.
more to do, but as far as the variance before us with the sieve analysis, I agree with our health agent as well. I don't see a problem with it.
No, I was waiting for your input.
I will make it a motion that we accept the sieve analysis if it's approved. I haven't seen that paperwork yet, but if it's approved,
Just,
oh, you did, thank you. So if it's approved and it passes, I'll make a motion that we accept a sieve analysis opposed to the actual perk test for the
28.
action of 28
Charlie
Charles
Crossing.
Crossing.
And I'll second it.
Anything else, Matt? No? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll wait for the,
Sure.
so you'll have to come back before the board evidently for the final plan
With the,
Can we,
Well, if these things, submit a plan with these check on, we cross the line, doesn't have to go back to court. But only before us bring up the variance request. But we satisfied that variance request. So,
in this case, what you're saying is that if they come back and they say, oh, the grease trap's gonna go here, it's gonna be a gravity feed oil pump, Jamie Terry can review that and say, yep, you're good to go, and we don't have to come back.
that's correct. We don't have to wait that extra step.
And that way you wouldn't have to wait 2, 3 weeks or whatever, depending on the timing of the next board meeting. Does that sound good, Jim?
Yes.
And Jamie is available on a regular basis?
I spoke to her earlier today.
Okay,
She was available to come tonight. I said that the board didn't really need her to be here, so she's said that, it's fine. She wrote this memorandum up and gave it to me.
perfect.
She is available if you had, you could call it by phone, but I think it's pretty, like Matt said,
It's pretty
pretty
straightforward.
straightforward.
Yeah.
The grease trap is a different thing that wouldn't be involved in that, but there is a commercial kitchen, so, you know, they will need the upgrade, they would have to put the tank up there.
How big of a tank is it? 250?
No, it'd be 1,000.
1,500 or something?
Yeah, I don't know, I'll read up on grease trap requirements.
It's depending on the usage, it's a pretty small kitchen, it's very seldom utilized, it's only on the weekends that they have it. But it is still a commercial kitchen with a commercial hood, commercial sink, so it is a commercial kitchen.
And what you're saying for the grease trap is that it's just the
Outside.
kitchen? Just the kitchen?
The kitchen, to collect all that, it's to protect them, but it's
Not
also.
toilets or anything else?
No.
Just grease.
Just grease.
Just the kitchen waste.
The kitchen waste is required by law now with the upgrades that you install a tank outside a large tank, not only the small ones under the sink, but outside to collect, so it doesn't, what it is to protect the environment and protect that system from overloaded grease.
Right.
It would, you know, the system's not gonna last long if you got dumping all that in.
Correct. All right.
Is there anything else from you?
No, that was it.
That was it?
Okay. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I'll give you my cards.
All right, great, thank you. So, good evening.
Yeah,
You
thank
too.
you.
All right, next up, 184 Oxford Road variance.
Do you know how big a grease trap they're gonna put in?
What's that?
How big a grease trap?
Yeah, it's very small.
Yeah, 1,000 gallons.
Minimum. They put, for Yankee Diner, they have one that's almost, I think, really put 2,000 gallons in there.
I don't know. That had a deal on? Had a deal on that, everybody has to.
Yeah.
I'm Mark Farrell, Regional Engineering,
Okay.
designer on the project.
Mark.
Jim.
Mark.
Hello.
Good to see you.
This is a project that we perked earlier in the year, and Gabe Berthium put it in. And what it is behind the house is a big hill. There's a couple of leach pits back here, and very high groundwater. So Gabe had talked to Jim and asked if it was possible to move these tanks to the front of the yard, which Jim gave him a verbal to go ahead and do, and he just said, put it on the as-built. We put it on so that's basically how it got installed. The system's where it's supposed to be. The tanks just came out they redid the plumbing in the basement, the tanks are in the front yard. So they ended up about 35 feet from a drilled well over here. Jim was aware of that, and I drew up the as-built as it was, and Jamie reviewed it, and she said you need to get a local upgrade. And so that's why we're here asking for that.
Would you like me, Mr. Chairman, to
Yeah,
read what
please.
Jamie had written?
Yes.
Variance requests local upgrade approval of Title V regulations regarding as ad-built off-site for a septic tank and pump chamber to the existing on-site well for private drinking water in accordance with Title V, blah, blah, blah. Upon review of the as-built plans for the existing property, note this was an upgrade, repair, not new construction. I found the septic tank and the pump chamber was not altered during the septic installation. The proposed plan shows the septic tank and pump chamber locations to be in the back of the dwelling. If interested, see the plan in the file. I contacted both the engineer, Mark Farrell of Green Hill, and the installer, Gabe Berthium. Both stated that challenges were met in the field during the installation with high groundwater and inability to get the tanks into place in the backyard. Gabe stated he and Mark and Jim Malley had spoken during the installation, and that Jim Malley requested at least 25 feet offset to be maintained, that the matter would be brought before the Board of Health in a variance request prior to the issuance of a COC. The tanks are structurally sound and watertight. These tanks have already been installed and are in use. It is my opinion that the Board of Health should consider approval of this field change and local upgrade approval. That said, I would also recommend that if the field change is required during the installation and require a variance or such review or approval by this board, that the property be placed for review and consideration on the very next agenda to assure a timely discussion and review. Jamie Terry.
I have a question. She mentions in there 25-foot offset. Is that the offset from the existing well to the tank? Is that what
Well,
she
that
said?
Jim was requesting that Title V for new construction, the offset to a septic tank and pump change was 50 feet.
Okay.
And traditionally, they will go down and grant local upgrades to 25 feet. So he was just asking that you maintain that 25 feet.
And this is at 35 feet?
35 feet.
Okay, so that's not an issue.
So that was maintained.
Right.
So, did I get this right? That tank in the front yard's installed and it's active?
That's correct.
And it was one of these things where, in the field when construction, they called Jim didn't see a problem
Exactly.
with it.
Jim said that's fine. Gabe explained to him what the situation was, and Jim said, just, that's fine, go ahead.
So, for discussion, before this board, in this case, I've known all three parties at a professional level, and they've always been on point. So because the situation we have is Mr. Malley is no longer with us, so that presents, he was our go-to guy as far as Jim, did you say yes or no? Because if he said yes, and this board has a problem with it, that's not fair to the homeowner, the installer, any of that. It'd be, in my opinion, if Mark says it was good, I would, if Mr. Berthium says it was good, maybe to secure it, we get a letter from Gabe saying, Jim, like a affidavit, Jim told me it was okay. I'm gonna believe him 100%. I believe Mark, I believe Gabe. We can't ask Jim, so it puts us in a sticky situation as far as that goes. That's what I have to say on the discussion. As far as any vote from me, I'm gonna have to recuse myself because I've done work at this house several times in the past 10 years. So I'm personally familiar with the landowner. And I even think we might have even cut the trees for this particular septic. So I'm gonna refrain from a vote.
Sure, yes. I think if, knowing Gabe and knowing Mark, if Jim told them, then I believe that it's correct, and I think that I would recommend that we follow, that if Jim thought it was okay, his wishes were that, I'm not sure why this is before Jamie again, or what happened.
Why what?
I'm not sure it's why Jamie was involved, it's already in use, what happened, why was
Well,
this?
because I did the as-built, and then she reviewed
okay.
the as-built.
She reviewed
So
the as-built.
basically,
So,
she reviewed the as-built,
That's
and then
right.
she said, she looked at it and said, wait a second. She called me and said the tank is too close to the well. I explained what happened. She called Gabe, he explained what happened.
Gabe was in the office just a while ago, and he, spoke to Jim just as much as I did, so I think if Jim said it was okay, like you said,
We wouldn't move them
Yeah.
otherwise, because, Jim
Exactly.
would just, it would be,
counterproductive.
Yeah, you have to move them and then have to move them again.
yeah, no, we wouldn't just kind of, they might twist them back here or something like that, but they're not gonna move them from here to there without getting some sort of authorization. I mean, it would be,
Right. Yeah, I agree.
ridiculous to do that. I mean,
Even if
we-
there was a problem, based on a 50-foot offset, the only person who would be affected would be these homeowners.
Right,
And
right.
So it's not like, oh, we'll approve it, and then you find two abutters are suddenly having problems with their wells.
And it's the tank, it's not the leach field.
Right, right.
Exactly.
And you said that
These tanks today, 30 years ago, the tanks were junk. They poured them with, leftover concrete that went out of a ready-mix job.
Yeah,
And they might pour half today and half tomorrow, so they leaked. They manufactured with holes in the bottom so that they didn't hold water in the yard. And today, the tanks are just, the standards are way higher. I mean, they're
Bomb-proof.
Huh?
They're bomb-proof.
Yeah,
Look like a bunker.
The cement is all high-quality cement. They mix it, they pour them, so they don't leak. I mean, they basically, it's,
you said these are leak-proof. Is it just a regular cement cap that's, I've got it.
I'm not sure what he put on there for risers, but they can put any number of different types of risers on there.
And the groundwater level would not be high enough to. go
Well,
above
you
that.
can always, if we would put them in the back, infiltration in
Could happen
could
in the back,
happen
could
in
have
the
happened
back,
in the back.
and because that's a pump chamber, it just acts like a sump pump. So as soon as the water trickles in, it sends it out to the leach field, and then you have a potential to overload your leach field, because now you're pumping groundwater. You might,
Right.
instead of pumping 300 gallons from the house, you might be pumping 1,000 gallons coming in there, because groundwater can, if it's higher than the top of the tank, it can seep into covers. It's really, really hard to keep on here. But in this case, they're not in the groundwater. It's one of the reasons they put them back there. And they don't leak out of the bottom of the tank. It's usually, if there's infiltration, it's coming in.
Okay.
If you think of, sorry, Ken.
No, go ahead, I'm just gonna.
I was
She's
just,
looking at street
She's in the
view.
driveway.
I'm just thinking out loud,
I'm
if
at
you,
the house,
if
you
you
know.
think of the logic behind it, the last thing anybody wants to do is rip up a front yard to put a septic tank in there if you didn't need to do it. Obviously, they did it because that was what was
Yeah.
supposed to be
And the
done.
homeowners don't have an issue with it, and they're like John said, they're the ones that. it's
Yeah,
their
they'd
work.
be the only ones affected, in all probability, based on what we know, so.
Yes.
All right. Kathleen?
So, Mr. Chairman, based on my experience in dealing with Gabe for a long time, many years, I really have quite a bit of trust in his judgment and his word. And based on looking at the house, and it's a very rural area, it's not a village house.
Yeah, the next, I mean,
And,
obviously the
I'm
well is
looking at it on the
ways away.
iPad here. So I would make a motion to accept the variance for 184 Oxford Road,
Okay.
Charlton.
I'm also in favor, so we'll make it official.
Not the second, because Matt recused himself.
I'm sorry. Second it. All in favor? Aye. Looks like you're good to go.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, you guys have a good evening.
You too. Hopefully you don't run into this too often.
What's that?
He said, she
Changes
said.
on, no, changes
Oh,
on the
we don't,
fly.
we don't usually run into those, but we run into local upgrades all the time, so.
Yeah.
No, the,
They just use them to, when we're repairing systems and there's no expansion of flow, local upgrades are used often to kind of facilitate helping it, making it easier for the homeowner to fix their septic system,
Mhm. Yep. I had to do that on mine.
a local upgrade.
Well, they had to redo the leach field, but I ended up, it was about the easiest thing we could do because the backyard sloped down, so they just brought in the fill and the sand and
Yeah, a lot of sand.
a lot of sand, yeah.
So this is actually me who tests those sand.
Oh, is that it?
I have a laboratory and I test the soil for the alternative to the perk test.
So the sand, is it the angularity and so forth of the?
Well, this is what they call a particle size analysis, so you just determine the percentage of sand, silt, and clay in there.
Okay,
So if it's got a lot of clay, like Matt said, you're gonna end up with a bigger system.
yeah.
If it's mostly sand, then you can get put a smaller system in.
But the sand, doesn't the sand have to have some sort of physical characteristics to it? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is a little bit off topic, but I'm gonna bring it up. I have above ground pool with a sand filter, and the instructions say you should change it every 3 years because the sand will move around, and I realize you wouldn't have it move around here, but they said the angularity of the sand can change and it'll get rounded, and your infiltration will not be as good. And I thought, okay. And obviously this is
Yeah,
not the
they
same
don't check
situation.
that, it's just particle size, so whether it's,
And it's-
angled or rounded, or it basically is just what size is it?
And as far as the makeup of the sand, I mean, it could be from any type of rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to touch on that, John, typically a bank run sand is probably gonna have more of a rounder surface, correct?
Because of the.
Because of the waters.
flowing. Yep.
So there was a situation a few years back, you may remember this one, where the state was not gonna allow manufactured sand, which has the sharp one, and the sharp one actually works better than the round one.
Right.
And through a couple of phone calls, a little bit of pushing back with this board, Mr. Malley and whatnot, and the entire Presby system itself, which is made out of manufactured sand, the state kind of backed off and said, oh no, you can have manufactured sand. But at first it came off, no, you can't have manufactured sand, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal.
Because the manufactured sand, they thought would not have the same uniform.
Well, just the
appearance.
opposite.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think of the logic. Well,
The
it's-
manufactured sand is actually screened down to that certain
Right.
size, whereas bank run
as whatever.
It's not gonna be
Unless
as,
you're gonna put it through a specific mesh.
right,
whatever
to
it's
screen
called,
it, yeah.
screen
So I don't know if you knew about that one.
I didn't know, no, I didn't, I know that well, most of the bank run today anyway is processed because of, you know, since '96, when they revised the code, and they had a spec for the sand, in order to consistently make sure you run, unless you have a bank really, really clean, you know, sand, so people like Bond and Bercume, and I'm sure Hilka, before they manufacture, would kind of wash all the sand. So it's all, they process it all now, they run it through a bunch of sieves and get the bigger rocks out, and
work.
it's a lot of work, that's why it's so expensive.
Wash it once, wash it twice.
Yeah. All right.
All right, great, thank you very much, you guys have a good evening, thank you.
You as well. All right, next up on new business vaping. Matt, you've been away for a little bit. Yeah, I don't know how much Jim has filled you in on what's going on with vaping. But I mentioned it briefly earlier. Selectmen are concerned and they want to pull us in. So we've been invited to a meeting 1 week from tonight at the Board of Selectmen. It's approximately 9 o'clock. It depends on their time schedule. Did I say 9? 7.
Say 9, isn't it?
I'm sorry, 7 o'clock,
Okay.
roughly, give or take, that we'd be discussing that, but it's interesting, and I forgot it, I left it at home, there was an article in the Telegram that said it was probably this big about vaping, and from what I'm seeing, I think the jury's still out as far as all the concerns with that. What does it get up to, like 3,000 degrees or something, and and this stuff just gets vaporized, and there's God knows what chemicals and what it's doing to, especially children.
You walk through a store now and all these young girls, guys, whatever, and they're the size of a thumb drive,
Yeah,
and they're smoking out there. So,
and it's nicotine. I mean,
and
it's,
it does interfere with it's under the nuisance. It would be a nuisance to you, that's why they can't use them. They say they can be in a public building, you can't, because it interferes with your right. You know, someone standing next to you, they're vaping, you're gonna